We are fucking here. We are finally here. It is Blunts and Bruises, episode number 1, kind of 1.5 because we had a little stoner sesh the first time. But yeah, man, finally doing it. Finally talking MMA besides just the Cannabis Lifestyle TV live stream. And I know we've done that for a few years now. Every time there's a good card, we bring it up. So Tyson, appreciate you kind of nudging me to make this happen, brother.
Nah, thank you very much for having me.
It's like, I feel like a lot of people, depending on what you're into, you get with some friends, you'll hang out and maybe have some drinks, have some food, kick it, watch the fights. And, it's a 12 card, maybe 13 cards. I've seen even longer ones. Sometimes 14, I think, was the longest, maybe in history. But you get together, you hang out for quite a while. Now, me and my buddies, normally what we would do is we'd hang out and we'd smoke the whole fucking time. And every single time, I'm talking every time, every fight we smoke a blunt. So that's like 12 blunts in a night, every fight. And sometimes it sucks when the fight ends real quick. You go in there and it's an immediate finish. Blunt's not even done. It's like, son of a bitch. So we'll go and watch some highlights real quick on YouTube. But it's the consistent, blunt talk for me. And that's where this kind of inspired Blunts and Bruises. So welcome to the podcast. Let me light the blunt.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Good idea.
So today's podcast, we're going to be talking specifically about a card I've been looking forward to, more than anything, the fight I've been looking forward to, but UFC 253, Costa versus Izzy. And I'm super excited for this. Adesanya has been on a tear for a long time, really. He's extremely exciting. I look at him like Anderson Silva 2.0. You got Paulo Costa, who's like the new version of Belfort, damn near, just a fucking tank. Like Belfort's older brother, even though he's younger. Dude is just shredded. Hits like a freaking brick shithouse. Aggressive, durable, pretty damn good stamina, believe it or not. And just the fact that they're both undefeated, both kind of their rise has been very comparable. I'm super, super excited for this one.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it too. I was actually surprised the other day just looking through a few highlights of Costa. He's actually been in the UFC longer than Izzy has.
No shit. Injury bug obviously was not helping him.
Yeah, I think that's probably the thing. He had, what's it been, 12 months since he fought
like
last.
A pectoral issue,
shoulder injury.
Shoulder.
Yeah.
He's been having a lot of problems there.
I think that's the reason. Yeah, I think that was the issue with him not being it. Well, I think that's why Romero got the fight against Izzy in the first place, because Costa.
But there's a lot of other good fights on this card. A lot of it, I feel like there's some sleepers. There's some names that people may not be familiar with, or there's, names that you may be familiar with that are being slept on because they've got weird coaches. And there's a lot of different people who I was excited for a couple different fights that were here, but instead of the injury bug this year, we've got the COVID bug. So that's been a problem with a lot of fighters where they went from, ready to go. They're still healthy. They're good, but then they test positive for the Rona. And unfortunately, good fights have, failed out. There's been plenty of good ones that were supposed to come up that aren't happening now. And unfortunately, there was one I was looking forward to that is gone now. And now Shane Young has a new opponent. I don't even know who this guy is. Ludovic Klein.
Yeah, no, I'm not too sure. I haven't heard of him either. I think it's his first fight in the UFC. I was excited for that fight too, actually. We were talking about that the other day. Yeah. Shane Young being, Kiwi, I was, looking forward to that. But it was one I was going to, when I was saying about we tip on a few fights, it was a fight I was going to put on the line and see if you wanted to.
Oh, yeah, that definitely could have been one for it, man. And honestly, I'm such a stoner, I forgot dude's name that he was going to fight, but he's fucking tough, man. He was in M1 for a while. He got smoked semi-recently, got knocked the fuck out, but it was a brawl. And, he got COVID, man. Yep. We'll pop his name on the screen here. Benny, hopefully get that in. I'm just a stoner, obviously. Blunts and Bruises is the name for a reason. But, that really being kind of the only recognizable name on that lower end, other than when you move up towards someone like, the Nightmare or the Dream or whatever he's feeling at the time, Diego Sanchez and Jake Matthews. That's where it gets a little bit more into recognition. You start to realize these are people who've been around for a while. And Jake Matthews, man, he has been in the game for a fucking minute, realistically. He's been in the UFC for a while. He seems still like he's a young, up-and-coming dude, and he is, realistically. But at the same time, he's a vet in it. It's not like it's his first or second fight. I mean, you got guys who've got 7-8 fight win streaks who no one's even heard of sometimes. And Jake Matthews, he's really popular, of course, where he's from. He's one of the OGs of the area. He represents the land real hard, but at the same time, he's been exciting. He's had some good fights. His guillotine's fucking amazing. He's got one of the best guillotines out there. And I feel like he's one of those guys that maybe a change up in camp, not leaving the camp, but going over and training with another camp for a little bit that is on another level of, I don't know if it's the grappling he needs to work on more or the striking, but it just like one of them needs to be a little bit more specialist Instead of just being so well-rounded, I think that's where he falls back. He'd be like one of those top dudes in 2008 maybe. But right now, it's like you've got some elite dudes, elite strikers, elite grapplers, elite submission artists that are well-rounded, but they're really, really, really good in a few areas. You know, and it's a great matchup for him with Sanchez. Sanchez is the perfect person. He's aggressive, he's well-rounded, he's durable. At the same time, he's beatable.
Yeah, I think he's going to get a tougher fight than what the odds are predicting. I couldn't believe it when I heard I don't know how you guys over there do it, but he's a minus 700 underdog, Diego is. Like, I couldn't believe that. I mean,
his recent performances, man, who he's been training with. I don't know if you saw the video. I think Emil Meek put it out of his trainer running around. We'll have to have Benny add that in, chasing around his fighters with a knife in the octagon. That was like dodging them. He's like, everything's a knife. He's running around. Everything's a knife. It's like, no, it's not. That's illegal in mixed martial arts. You can't do that. Like, it's the craziest shit I've ever seen. But that, I think a lot of it is who Diego Sanchez has become mentally in his trainer, man. Like, that coach is a fucking joke. I'll be as blunt as it gets. I don't understand it. He has no credentials to teach a mixed martial artist anything. Maybe a form of martial arts, but mixed martial arts is different. This guy is just, he's clowning the sport. I'd rather see, Perry bring his girlfriend in, realistically. I'll be that direct. I would rather see Perry's girlfriend in there.
Yeah, well, I just don't know where Diego's at anymore. You know, like he's been, one of the greatest and all, but I just sometimes it's time to
we'll see which Sanchez,
especially when you've been in as many wars as he has.
Ultimate Fighter 1, come on now.
Yeah. Yeah, he's been around a long time.
His brain's not going to be there being a commentator because it just is what it is. You get so far into it, you've been hit so many times, it's just not going to be all there. And I think that he's hurting his longevity by continuously fighting. I think he could maybe even be that kind of different, odd coach who's teaching people, because he's got way more credentials and qualifications to be a coach than the dude he has. So I think a lot more fighters could do that. You look at Dwayne Ludwig in the leaps and bounds of improvement he has made in his career, not being a fighter, but his life, financially and everything, by being a great coach, using the knowledge and skills and experience from being a mixed martial artist in the UFC to being able to teach the up-and-coming guys. And look at Dillashaw, man. He went from whether it's PEDs or whatever the fuck he's on, you go from being a grappler to being like an elite striker and grappler and it's just everything. It just shows. It really does show. So, I don't know. That's what I think Sanchez should do. It's just my 2 cents. I'm couch talking. Blunt talk.
Yeah, no, I don't care what he really does, but I just think it's time he probably thinks about giving up fighting. I shouldn't say it like that. Like I said, he's been
huge respect to all fighters who do it, but yeah, I agree, man. I agree. For his health and his safety, his family. So then you've got Brad Riddell. No, exactly. I don't know a whole lot about this guy. That's
he's another one fighting out of City Kickboxing. Teammates with Adesanya, Volkanovski, Hooker. So he's in a good camp. He pretty well credentialed Thai fighter. He's got wins over John Wayne Parr.
Oh,
I don't know if you've heard of John Wayne Parr before.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, no. So he's got to win. Yeah, no, he's got to win over John Wayne Parr in John Wayne Parr's organisation, Cage.
Wow.
Yeah, Cage Muay Thai. So that's inside a cage with MMA gloves, but Muay Thai. So he got to win over that. But that was a rematch. He did lose to John Wayne earlier on in his career. But yeah, no, he's a pretty well credentialed fighter. He's fought in Glory. He fought in Glory a little bit. Him and Adesanya have been training partners for a fair while now. So when Adesanya was over fighting in Glory, working through Rise of Heroes that Glory were doing. So Brad Riddell fought in that a couple of times. Like I said, well credentialed striker. So him and Adesanya always talks about his ground game, but we haven't seen much of Adesanya, Hooker, or Volk, any of them boys' ground game, to be honest with you. But if it's as good as their striking is, you can expect it to be good enough. But their striking's that good, they don't need to take it to the ground.
Yeah, and a lot of the guys, like you look at Chuck Liddell back in the day, he was almost like the anti-wrestler. He was a wrestler who used it to not wrestle. Or Henderson later in his career, Hendo was more about that H-bomb than he was about trying to take people down and ground and pound them. Now, I think a lot of fighters, you got to look at the entertainment factor. If you're not somebody who gets quick finishes and you're just taking them out immediately, then honestly, I don't know if your career and longevity in sports entertainment world, because that's what it is, if that's your best bet. You're better off to go and strike. So I think I'm really excited to see this fight. Alex De Silva is no joke. 21-2 versus 8-1. A lot of experience difference in mixed martial arts, but numbers don't always tell the tale. When you look at someone's career, like again, 16-4 for Jake Matthews, his caliber of who he's fought compared to someone like Alex De Silva, it's a little different. You got to think about like who's the best example? Renan Barao. He came in the game like what, 28-0 in the UFC. People were like, this dude's a killer. And it's like, well, look at his list. Look at Fedor even. Fedor's fought some good guys, don't get me wrong. But look at how many cans were crushed. Alex De Silva, looking at his record, he's got a lot of names I've never seen. And they could be good, but if they haven't gone anywhere further, honestly, I'm just leaning a little bit more towards Brad Riddell in this because of who he trains with, the experience. Even though the numbers on one end show something, the experience overall in combat sports, I feel like leans more towards Brad Riddell, personally.
Yeah, well, to be honest with you, I can't say I've really heard too much of De Silva, the bloke he's fighting. So, but being from where I'm at and just knowing Brad, on Brad's side, hoping he gets the win. But you obviously don't assume a 21-2 record without having some kind of ability. And I'm assuming he's Brazilian.
Yeah.
So if he's fought over there in Brazil, generally they're all pretty
yeah,
bad.
You got a lot of scrappers out there, man. Even in the lower league stuff, they may not have the management to get them to the next level. I feel like that's a lot of times what it comes down to.
That's the thing. He might, like you say, I don't know what experience he's got, but generally,
yeah. I'm really excited for that fight. Really, the prelims have a lot of names that aren't recognizable to a lot of people, but those matchups I feel like oftentimes produce better results, and sometimes the big names do. So we'll see. So moving on to the main card, though, dude, like I'm really excited for the main event the most. I'm gonna be honest with you, but there's a couple sleepers on here I feel like that people aren't familiar with that could produce some really good results. You know what I'm saying? So,
what
Hakeem Dawodu. I can struggle with names. If you watch Cannabis Lifestyle TV, you know I struggle with names. Versus Zabaru, guy who punched McGregor, Takahugov. That's all I know him as. Well, and that dude's tough, man. Good grappling. It's a dead even is what they got the matchmakers. -110, -110. That's good, man.
Now, well, it's funny. The reason I asked you is because I wasn't game enough to try and pronounce her name.
Smart bad. Now, I noticed with these guys, the experience level again, 11-1, 19-4, quality for sure. But who they fought, I think, is a little different caliber. I've seen Hakeem against some people who are like, I remember the face, but I don't remember the name. As where I've seen Zaborura, who he trains with, his team in general, the couple fights he's had in the UFC, just a little bit sharper in the skill set, more well-rounded, has like that kind of Greco-Roman wrestling, but still good striking. It's more Sambo probably. Honestly, I don't really know who I'm going to take in this one. The matchmakers got that one fucking solid. It could go either way. I just really think that when you're looking at strike for strike, it's going to be close. But when grappling comes into it, I'm going to be leaning towards Zaborura.
How do you say the other bloke's name?
Hakeem.
Yeah. What weight's this at?
I believe this is at welterweight or lightweight. Got to get it together.
I wasn't sure. Yeah, I wasn't too sure either. That doesn't matter. I can't. He just chiseled. That's the only thing. I just thought I wasn't sure what weight it was at.
That's the thing is a lot of these guys do like. I feel like they're putting a lot of stress on their bodies by cutting that dramatic of weight when you're that chiseled. You're almost better off to have a little bit of, flub on you, so to speak. Not flub, but just looseness, because losing that water weight, you're going to be losing a lot of cardio. So that could play a factor. I mean, who knows?
I think, cutting too much weight, you only have to look at fighters like Robbie Whittaker, who really in, not so much olden days, but in years gone by, you'd look at him and say he's undersized middleweight. But I think it's the modern day fighter now.
Oh yeah, I mean, when you got Darren Till, especially middleweight, welterweight to middleweight. Darren Till, Calvin Gastelum, look way better a weight above where they're at. It just plain and simple. Even Jorge Masvidal fighting at lightweight compared to fighting at welterweight. There's a lot of dudes who are they're seeing their body fill out more. You're seeing it more in the women's division, which we'll touch on here in a second, next fight. Some of the women who they decide, because there's more room between 115, 125, and 135 and 145, you got a little bit of flexibility now compared to there just being like two divisions where you got 115 to 135. That's a big jump, you know? You were talking like having Joanna versus Ronda at one point. It's like, that's a pretty big fucking leap, man. But you're talking 125 to 115 where you got Shevchenko. That's the perfect mix. That's where I see like the argument for the 165 division in some cases, or like those breakups, the cruiserweight type of stuff, because you got some of these dudes who are just stacked, chiseled, and they're cutting weight where like they may not make it 15 pounds above where they're at, but 5 or 10 they might do better.
Well, I was just gonna quickly go off topic for a second there and see where you stand on that. Where do you think on weight classes? Do you reckon we should have more, like there should be more weight classes?
I don't think it should be like boxing, but I think they should open it up just a bit more for the simple fact that you've got flexibility in like, look at Chimaev, could struggle with his name. I'll get it right as he's fucking people up. Chimaev. He's been fluctuating between 185 and 170. It's a 15-pound jump. That's kind of big. It'd make more sense if he had even 180, if they changed it of a 10-pound difference. I don't think they need to open up so many more divisions, but you go 15 pounds, 15 pounds, 15 pounds, and then heavyweights like 206 and whatever to 265. It's crazy.
But see, even then, that's the thing I think from like a heavyweight. What is it? 205 to 265.
206 technically, so anything over 205 to 265.
That's a 60-pound.
That's what
difference.
I'm saying. So like, if anything, do 10-pound gaps and then add a cruiserweight, add a fucking 215 even, let's say.
Well, I was thinking of 225.
Yeah, 220. That even makes sense too. I mean, you got a lot of fighters who are like, potentially could be super heavyweights that fuck it, you can cut a little bit of weight, and then you got dudes who are like big light heavyweights, like Anthony Johnson even, or people who are kind of trim type of heavyweights. There's multiple names that I'm just stoned and forgot, but that dudes who are like chiseled. Yeah, no, like, man, you could probably, you're fighting against these dudes who are huge and you're stacked looking. Like Cormier, totally stoned. Jared, he's fighting Robert Whittaker. Cannonier. Wow. I'm thinking Cormier. It's like they had a kid. Cannonier and Cormier had a kid. Totally stoned. Oh, in that case, like he was a heavyweight, light heavyweight, down to a middleweight. That's crazy.
Yep. But see, I think a 225-pound, like I'm not sure, I can't quite remember. What did Velasquez fight at? He would have been around 225, 230, wouldn't he? He wasn't super huge. And you probably look at, wherever you stand or whatever, but one of, the best heavyweights, Fedor, he only fights at 220.
That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of fighters that would fit in that realm. And that's where, again, we'll pivot into the next fight here with the women. I like how they've got the 10-pound difference. Do that more. That makes more sense. And I've heard them even talking about getting that that beast judo chick from PFL and maybe even open up a 155 division. It's like, that's crazy. Make her cut 10 pounds. But, it makes sense. You've got different body types. You got different people. Now, in the next fight here, Ketlen Vieira, I think that's a gimme fight here with Sijara Eubanks. Now, Eubanks is another one of those, like, she's kind of a little doughy, like, for the division, you know what I'm saying? Where she could potentially move up in weight. If she tightened it up, she could drop down in weight. But I think a lot of these fighters, their record gets tarnished because they're not fighting at the weight that works best for them because the divisions aren't made yet. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I know exactly where you're coming from.
Ketlen Vieira is a lot smaller. She's more like not small, but she fits 135. I feel like Eubanks could fit 145. She could potentially go to 145. But she's 5'4". When you're short like that, you struggle in a sense when you're like, you got the weight, but you don't, like a Mark Hunt, perfect example. But then you won't reach motherfuckers. You've got John Lineker was another one who was like 5'3" or 4", and he's usually 135. He wanted to fight 125, but he couldn't make the weight. It's like the body sometimes won't make it there.
Well, I think the problem is in the women's division too is I'm only just speaking kind of previous instances, but just the lack of depth. Sometimes it's getting fights in the weight division, in your weight division. Sometimes if you want the fight, you've got to take it in the higher weight division just because of the lack of opponents. And So hopefully, as the women's division's grown hugely in the last few years. Hopefully, as it continues to grow, it's easier for some of these girls to find fights in their weight division, and they're not forced to fight out of their division. Not that this is a case of that, but just in previous fights that have happened for some of the girls out that have had to fight at heavier weight classes just to get that fight.
Yeah, exactly. And this one, there's no odds makers. I didn't see anything here, and I'm assuming it's because Ketlin's just going to take this. I mean, I just don't see. I mean, Eubanks actually has decent reach, 67 to 68, and she's 5'4". So I mean, that's pretty good there. But honestly, I'm just seeing Vieira just being more aggressive. She's got. I mean, not overall when you look at statistics. You look at Sajara, she's probably got more overall experience. But I just think that this is one of those fights where they're trying to build one fighter off of somewhat of a name, and it's not one that I think Sajara, wasn't she actually fighting at the weight below that? If I'm thinking right, she was on the Ultimate Fighter and didn't make weight.
Could very well have. I can't.
She was actually, and Roxanne Modafferi replaced her. I do remember that. Yeah.
Yep.
So she did move up in weight. I see. So that's a perfect example. She was struggling at the weight she was at, lower, but that was to get into the UFC. And that's where it could hurt you if you're lower or higher. And I think with women it's tougher too. You've got a woman's body fluctuates more. You've got a woman's cycle and things like that. With guys, a lot of it's discipline. You know what I'm saying? It's either discipline or else some people even have the body type, man, where their metabolism doesn't match what they want to do.
Oh, the thing is too, I reckon it's for a lot of these fighters too that come into the UFC at a young age, they're still growing to an extent.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Robbie Whittaker is probably a perfect example of that too. He hadn't, not that he hadn't filled out and wasn't mature, but the longer you spend in the gym, the bigger you get.
Oh yeah, and he was learning too. To have him fight someone like Stephen Thompson, who's an elite kickboxer, fuck his MMA record, which was great at the time. His kickboxing martial arts record, dude wasn't defeated in any form of martial arts at any point. That's a big step up for a young MMA athlete who really that's all Robbie was. Starting off, Whittaker was just he was good boxing, but he was a well-rounded MMA fighter. Taekwondo being a background I see, but you don't see much of it in his fighting. Now you see just a more looseness. You see a developed skill set where it's his style of fighting. Now, him versus Thompson now I think will be a completely different fight. Dramatically different. Well, the weight division's also different. I just think stylistically Thompson was set in his way from his years of experience. This is who he is, who he's going to be. Whittaker was it's they were kind of at this area right here. Whittaker was going up, but they met at a certain area where I wouldn't say Thompson was going down because he jumped right into title shot there, but his style doesn't change. He's kind of where he's at. He's what he does. And you look at a lot of these fighters who develop, the next fight here with Kaya Kara France. I've been a big fan of him since Ultimate Fighter. A lot of these guys will have a lot of experience early on, and they get these losses in when they really haven't developed. They haven't filled in their skill set, their body, their mind. But that's where you look at, again, someone's like Kaya Kara France, he's evolved a ton, where it's gone from he was pretty much just a slugger on the Ultimate Fighter. That's all I looked at him as. Now he's more settled in his way. You were telling me about his early career where he was a journeyman, really, to a lot of people. He was, a .500 fighter.
Yeah, after, what was he, 7-6 with one no contest, and really that no contest was a KO loss, like I was saying to you. So, for him to turn it around, but I think that just probably shows you too the moving to city kickboxing, what it probably did for him.
Oh yeah, dude.
And the improvements that he's made. So but credit to him. Like I said, like I was saying the other day, there's not too many people I reckon that would be 7-6, turn their career around, go 11-2, and become the number 7 ranked. Yeah, exactly right. It was a turning point. It was obviously a turning point for him. So credit to him. He, I think this fight here, if he wins this, he's got to be knocking on the door of
100%. He's got to be knocking on the door of the title shot. That division is not deep at all, and to have if he knocks this dude out, I don't know much about Brandon Royval, but if he ends up knocking him out, you look at their output. You look at someone who's landing 5.27 strikes per minute versus 1.93. Significant strikes, not strikes. Significant strikes. The difference here, I got to believe, is Brandon Royval is a lot more of a takedown artist. You see his takedown average is close to 2. The accuracy is 100%. And the submissions average is 3.61. So he's going to be a lot more aggressive. He's going to be somebody who's looking to grapple and be on you. But Kai's got pretty good takedown defense. He's durable as fuck. His last fight really showed it. He's been showing it. His punching, for flyweight, Figueiredo, Lineker, and that's all I could think of. I mean, Dotson, while he was there, there's not many people who hit as hard as this dude. I mean, he's probably one of the hardest hitters in the division. So,
yeah, for that weight
so
class,
it's really attractive to have him
got...
being, if he wins, it's especially in a devastating fashion, something very impressive. That immediately makes him like, oh, well, shit, if Cody pulls a Cody and doesn't really do what we expect him to do, I don't know why he's dropping down in the division. As he's moving kind of back up in bantamweight, he's like going down. But immediate title shot, I guess I get it. But the division now has become more attractive, and that's what happens when these dudes do it, is when a big name drops down there, all of a sudden more eyes are there. And the eyes that are going to be there are going to draw on who is the person going to fight after they finish this big name, if that happens. You go through the list, Kai is one of the top ones, man. Like,
yeah, no, well, he's knocking on the door. My only concern with something like with dropping back, is he going to make weight? Can he make that weight? Is it gonna be another TJ instance here? And
I don't know if he's gonna use anything, but I think that he's gonna struggle. I don't think it's a good idea, but I mean, it's financial good opportunity, so good for him. Get his money. But he's fighting against a slugger. It's not like he's going against Benavidez. If he was gonna be fighting against Joseph Benavidez, I'd be like, fuck yeah, run it, dude. Because worst case condition, you get grapple fucked for 5 minutes and pitter pattered. But Figueiredo hits hard. That dude is a slugger. Man. The fact that he beat Benavidez the way he did twice, I mean, like, he killed him the second time. It was like a literally mangled body at the end. It was horrible. But to drop him like that, dude.
He destroyed him. Yeah, nah, I can't believe how hard he hits for the size of him.
Man, you wouldn't want to run into that little motherfucker at a bar and talking shit.
Nah.
And be like, hey, little dude, back the fuck up.
Exactly right.
Done. Little Tyson.
Yeah, nah, he does. He hits hard as hell.
Good grappling, too.
See, and that's... Well, my thing is too, like, if you look at the fight here, Kai's probably got the power advantage in the striking. So, my only worry is Kai moving forwards is I don't think he has the power advantage against Figueiredo.
No, not at all. I think he'd have to technically fight him, and he's got the chance to catch him with a counterpunch. I think he's got better footwork. I think he's got better overall kickboxing. He's got close to the equivalent power, and like I just don't think that he's got necessarily the snap in his punch that Figueiredo's got. He's got power, pushing power. You know what I'm saying? If that makes sense. He'll hit you hard, but it's an accumulation more times than not, it seems like. He had in the Ultimate Fighter, solid finishes, but it seems more times than not like he's a powerful, accumulative fighter. He's not going to just be that one-punch devastator. And Figueiredo's proven he can catch you and drop you. And the right or wrong referee could end a fight real quickly if he drops you quickly and hits you with a few strikes.
That's the thing. He just walks through anything, like he's got that walk forward, take one to give one. I'm pretty confident what I'll land will be harder than what you land on me. And so it'll be a fight. Hopefully, if Kai can win this moving forward, that we could, look at.
Dude, I'm hoping so, man. I'm hoping so. And speaking of moving forward, so to Jan Blachowicz, I always fuck his name up, Jan sometimes, versus Dominic Reyes. This is an interesting fight, man. This is the one that the black horse, the dark horse, whatever. Jan is kind of one of those dudes who is like a Kai. I mean, look at the record: 26-8, 21-8. He's a late bloomer, so to speak, in the division. A lot of it's because the division is not so steep, but it's because he turned like kind of Masvidal-like and went from being a point fighter, losing by points a lot of times and sometimes finishes, to being a devastating knockout artist out of nowhere. Like, where did that come from? Blows my mind.
I can't believe how experienced he has been in the UFC now. Like, he's been there for... Yeah, I'm trying to think how many fights it is. He must have, at least all a dozen fights in the UFC
and
by
against
now.
Names, dude. There's not many people in the light heavyweight division that are just random people. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I think the only people he's nearly lost to in the UFC, he's come back and beaten in rematches. So I'm just trying to think.
He's like Lennox Lewis, man. He's a Lennox Lewis of the light heavyweight division in the UFC. I dig it.
Yeah, so Corey Anderson, lost to Corey Anderson, come back, beat him.
Devastatingly.
Yeah. And then I'm trying to think of who the other ones... I know he's got another rematch win too as well in the UFC. I can't quite think of who it is.
And I think his thing, man, he turned it up. He went from being a guy who's like not putting everything in his strikes to being trying to take your fucking head off.
Yeah, no, I know exactly where you're coming from there. He's lifted that. I think he's gone from being he used to be a very straightforward, I think, walk forward kind of fighter now. and he starts to use a few more angles, which, I think he's pretty credentialed like Muay Thai. I think he had a pretty good Muay Thai career before moving into MMA or kickboxing experience anyway.
His style, you can see he's kind of tight with everything. He always came off to me like a grappler in his approach. He do a lot of clinch fighting, which is Muay Thai, but he'll get you against the clinch and does a lot of like Randy Couture-esque type of stuff where I'm like, all right, man, like, are you trying to finish him or are you trying to win by points? And I think, again, man, you just look at you get 1 or 2 good wins by knockout, you can be catapulted to the top. It's really what it takes. Good, brutal, solid knockouts. And what did he get? Luke Rockhold, wasn't it? He absolutely demolished.
Just
brutal. And I anticipated him to win, but not like that. Not at all like that. And when you got Rockhold at hype where he was like, oh, I'm fighting Jones, I'm coming. It's like, well, I don't know. You're coming back to the middleweight division. That's what you're doing, Playboy.
Yeah, no, exactly right. I think, I don't know where he's at. That was that fight with the shin injury he had, didn't he? He had a shin, Rockhold. But it didn't stop him from throwing that kick early on in the game, so I don't think there's too much of an excuse.
His jaw wasn't injured, but it sure was afterwards.
I think with Jones, exactly right. I think with Jones moving on, though, it's opened up the light heavyweight division for... I can't see it being dominated like he has for a little while now. I don't think there's much between you. Thiago Santos, Dominic, Jan, who else have we got up there? Even Glover.
Rakic, who just beat Lionheart.
Oh, yeah, Rakic. Yeah.
Rakic even too. Like, you've got a lot of people who are... they've got potential, but they're just like kind of the early days dudes who were like really, really good back in the day. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody's solid. Dominic Reyes is a great athlete. He's good. He's got good boxing. There's just nothing that stands out with anybody right now. Like, Jones is like amazing at everything.
That's the thing. I don't think people have realized just how good a champion he's been for how long.
Yeah, it's the black marks that go on his record that people, because he's got, the PED issue that came up, because he's got crashing into a pregnant chick and cocaine and busting off a gun, and list can go on and on and on. Pretty dirty shit. But the accomplishments in the ring.
The personal side of things, and exactly right.
So I don't know. Between this fight, honestly, I'm leaning a little bit more towards Reyes. I think he's just going to be able to outpace him. I think he's younger and more aggressive, and he wants it a little bit more. He feels like he won the last fight, so he's almost going to this like it's a title defense. So I think that I'm leaning more towards him. And the odds makers are just by a pinch. It's minus 260 to plus 22 or 220. Totally stoned. 220. And that's how I feel too. It could go either way, but I'm leaning a little bit more towards Reyes, personally.
Yeah, I don't think there's much between this fight either. I think Dominic should probably be favourite for good reason after his last performance against Jones.
He looked that good against John Jones. I mean, he looked better than Gustafsson did. Gustafsson looked great, but Reyes didn't look hurt. He came out of it, other than like later in the fight, he was good. I mean, through the whole fight, regardless, win, lose, or draw, it was a win in my book, like for his career.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like I said, I think it was a good performance. I don't know what John Jones it was that he fought against.
Man, but that's the thing is which one showed up that night.
Yeah, that's my only thing. But his performance, that's all I can base my opinion on. He looked good. So I just, for some reason, have got a funny feeling that Jan is going to catch Reyes.
He's going to upset the wedding, huh?
I don't know what it is. Yeah, I don't know what it is. I just got...
Ruin the wedding plans.
I just like... I don't know. I think we're due for a title. I don't know. Have we had a Polish UFC
I don't think so, yet? Honestly. Joanna, I don't think is Polish. No, I don't believe so. I think he'd be the first. And that'd be cool, man. Like, I love opening that up. And I think Reyes is young enough in his career that a loss wouldn't be the end of the world. Jan, it could be it for him. 26-8. I mean, you see people with late in their career resurgence, but he's kind of late in his career, so he could do it, man. The upset, whenever it happens, I'm never shocked. I mean, the only time I was shocked is when like Anderson Silva broke his fucking leg. That was the shocker. But like I even called the first Chris Weidman one, whether it was bullshit, fluky, he ran into it. I was like, watch, man, I'm telling you, Weidman can upset him. I think he has the style to do it, and it can happen anytime. So, but I am leaning. If I had to put money on it, I'm betting on Reyes.
Yeah, like I said, I think Reyes is favourite and should be, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if Reyes wins the fight. But I don't know what it is. Do any Americans hold? What Americans are title holders at the minute? Do you guys have anyone holding the title?
Kinda. I mean, he's in Ohio.
So you're clutching straws there, aren't you?
Yeah. Yeah, you're right, man. Welterweight, Usman again. Usman was in Nebraska. We'll take Usman.
Yeah, I see another one you're clutching at.
Middleweight, no. Light heavyweight, no. Heavyweight, no. Yeah, that's it, man.
No, it's funny. I was just as we were just speaking of that. I don't know. There you go. That's every reason why Jan will win, because
America's losing, title. Man. New Rome. They call us New Rome in the streets. But so on the next fight, both these guys are bad motherfuckers, man.
Well, someone's gonna lose.
Well, yeah, here. Someone's always got to go. And honestly, I think this is gonna be a decision. I don't see a finish. I think it could happen, but stylistically, I think they're gonna cancel each other out on a lot of stuff. But I think it's gonna be an action-packed fight. I think it's gonna be like Silva versus Adesanya, but it's going to be less fun and bullshit and more aggression in going forward. I just think Adesanya's tough, man. He can take a strike. But Paulo has got some fucking devastating power. And I think if he works the body, that might be the difference maker for him, where he could potentially pull that fight out. Otherwise, if Israel keeps that distance with that 80-inch reach and to be able to have the height, reach, and the overall like striking advantage when it comes to distance striking, I think that Adesanya probably could eke out that decision. I really think he could.
Well, like you were saying, we were talking the other day, and I was saying exactly that. I think Adesanya keeps the fight at reach, fights at a distance, catches Costa every time he comes in, that he'll win the fight. But then the more I think about it, if you look at Costa, he's only got to hit you once.
Oh yeah. And he can fold you, man. He's aggressive. Yeah. He's got good cardio. And I didn't think he had good cardio until he fought Yoel. And when you fight Yoel Romero and you're as aggressive as you are and you take some hits too and you're just pushing forward with power and aggression, and to be 3 rounds of that, like that shows he's got it. Now 5 rounds is a little different. Adesanya has had real like kickboxing experience, longer rounds, trains longer rounds. But again, I don't know if he's fought anybody like Costa, man. Nobody who's been the bull. Now he's a good matador, but like, I don't know, man. Costa, he's got a dumbness to him that makes it so he's just like, fuck it, and just goes forward. So I don't think he's worried about taking Adesanya's strikes. I think he's going to eat him up, and I think he's going to throw a lot of fucking leg kicks, too. He's been just talking about his chicken legs and saying how they're nothing, kind of like John Jones, and I think he's going to be working the body more than the head, because Adesanya is hard to hit. His head is hard to hit, but the body and the legs are more in place compared to the head. You know what I'm saying?
I don't think it'd be a silly idea for Costa to try and take Adesanya down.
Oh, for sure, dude. I think that's the thing. Is so playing the new UFC game, which I'm super fucking disappointed with. Like consistently, I've played a couple simulations myself, playing Israel and then playing Costa, and every time Costa, the computer character, goes fucking hard in the grappling and it just pounds the shit out of me. I'm like, what the fuck? And I think that's gonna be a big difference maker too. Is the aggression, somewhat sloppy striking, stuff that you can't train for as much, in the explosive takedowns, the clinch game, fucking drop him down where he may not do a whole lot, but it tires you. It kind of wears you down. And I think Costa's the type where he can get you with a couple good punches on the ground, open him up, and I mean, it could change the whole fight. I think the difference maker between the two of them is definitely the caliber of experience with Israel. He's got, championship kickboxing. Everything he's done outside of MMA has been huge, but also in MMA. Going from like a fight to get him in the UFC, fighting someone like Melvin Gillard on his way out, totally get it, but a veteran of the sport. And he's pretty much ever since then, like Brad Tavares, I believe, was one. Derek Brunson. I mean, like, names, tough dudes, good guys who are like, he's had a different caliber of fighters, in my opinion, than Paulo Costa. Well, don't get me wrong, Yoel's tough, and it was a different Yoel than what Israel fought. I just think that he's dealt with more and has more the advantage in the aspect of experience with that 0 record, the 0 loss, because he does have the loss in kickboxing, but he's got the durability that he's shown more than Costa. I haven't seen Costa really get tested, so to speak. Yoel wasn't a huge test. It was kind of like Yoel after going to war 2 times with fucking Whitaker.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Like we were talking about the other day, I think the experience, even inside the octagon, even though Costa's had 13 to 19 fights or whatever it is, Israel's had twice as many fights inside the UFC. He's had as many really big fights for titles in the UFC as Costa has probably, named opponents in the UFC. So,
True.
yeah. But in saying that, I just, if Costa can get inside, land his hands, he's got that,
puncher's
chance,
Yeah,
and,
absolutely, dude. And that's the thing that when people say like, "Oh, I got Costa," I'm not gonna argue with you. This is one that it could go either way, man. Either way.
You heard me talking the other day, and I was all over Izzy saying there's no way he could lose the fight. But now I've gone from the old 90-10 to kind of 75-25 now. I give Costa, not that he's, if my only problem is Israel is very, fight IQ. I give the advantage there to Israel and Eugene Bam, and they'll come in with a really good game plan. I think they'll look to take Costa deep.
I do too.
They'll look to really test. Yeah, and that's my thing too. I think fans probably might be a little bit disappointed with the early rounds because I think Israel's going to look to test that cardio and see if he can fight 5 rounds. And that's the only thing too is if he does tire, come round 4 or 5 and those hands drop, that's when Adesanya will pick him apart.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's where he will win. That's where he'll look to win the fight. So if he can just withstand that early onslaught, then. But it's withstanding that early onslaught.
Well, plus,
too,
in my mind, I'm worried.
Yeah.
I'm glad there's no audience for this fight, honestly. Because in my mind, I'm thinking that Israel is like, I got to bounce back and entertain the people because that last fight. Because Yoel was just not a fun fight. People were disappointed, talking mad shit. I get it. But at the same time, you got to win your fight. And this is a dangerous fight. This is one that, like, this dude could crush you, man. Like, end your career type of shit. Dude's a beast, man. Roided Ricky Martin. You don't want to fuck with that. Like, my opinion is... he is somebody who's got the skill set that could beat him. He's got the power that could beat him. But I'm still leaning with my boy Izzy. Just a little bit. Just for, again, that fight IQ, the experience, the reach, range fighting. All these things that come into play on a technical side. But no matter what, just like Tyson says, all your game plan can be thrown out the window once you get punched in the face. Something like that. And it's like punts in the face. So as soon as that happens... no matter what your game plan was, no matter what you thought was going to happen, it could totally shake up because he's got the power to do it. Gastelum was able to catch Izzy numerous times. I mean, rocked him, had his face busted the fuck up. So if he's got somebody like Costa doing that, we'll see, man. All I know is I'm excited for the fucking fight. I think we're going to have to do a fight companion on that one. Shout out to the, I wouldn't even say the homies, I don't know, but Joe Rogan for the inspiration on that one because I dig it, man. The commentators are cool, but I don't like how they got them all split up. And we're going to be smoking blunts with y'all. So, and now going forward, man, the winner of those fights, I don't know who they'd be able to fight next in the middleweight division. I mean, I guess if Yoel loses whatever issue he had, maybe COVID or who knows what it was against Uriah Hall, if that fight goes through, Hall could have a resurgence. He's been a dude I've liked since back in Chuck Norris's like combat shit that was like constant fighting stuff. Potentially could be one, but I don't see a whole lot of people in that division right now. I mean, Brunson maybe.
I think Whittaker's the only one really.
That's where it's at. You got Whittaker and you got Till that are names that are fresh.
Well,
Cannonier too.
If Cannonier can beat Whittaker, well then credit to him. He probably should be next in line. He's got a win over Jack Hermansson.
Jack Hermansson's another one too. I'm high right there. Yeah, I mean, he just immediately submit fucking chubby welterweight Gastelum, like nothing.
Gastelum.
That was a joke.
So that. I think that if really you look at it, there's not much separating Hermansson, and I know fight math means bugger all, but like Hermansson got a win over Brunson, Cannonier got a win over Hermansson.
Yeah, it's weird how that's all like. It's like people who hook up with the same chicks in a small town. It's like everybody already been with them. Like in this scenario, you're comparable, man. Like they've all kind of fought each other. Who's better than the other? It's really just about getting a string of wins.
To me, I think. Well, my only thing is, I think that Robbie Whittaker is probably just at the moment he's a clear rank number 2.
Oh yeah, the fact the only person who's beat him is fucking Izzy. I mean, I think you give him that fight where he's able to fight Cannonier, he wins that fight. Dead obvious, he gets that title shot. But then again, you've got Till, who's got a lot of hype, and that fight was pretty close with Robbie. It was a tight fight, but at the same time, I thought clearly Whittaker won it. But you look at Till could win 1 or 2 fights, and because he's a name that's recognizable, he's got a lot of popularity where he's from, boom, title shot. I mean, the rhyme or reason of rankings is bullshit nowadays. You look at a lot of the systems and they say, oh, this person, pound for pound, they're here, and it's like they haven't had a title in years. Why is McGregor still here? I'm a big fan of McGregor. He shouldn't be ranked anywhere near there. You've got a lot of people who the ranking system is based on popularity and fights, because one person fights and another person fights. The MMA math shit does add up when it comes to the ranking system, because like, well, how is this guy ranked below him when he just beat him recently? It's like, well, he lost a fight. It's like, yeah, but he just beat him, so he wins one fight and he goes up 2 spots. This dude loses one fight by decision, goes down 3. Like, a lot of it doesn't make sense. And you look at the number 1 contender, or you look at the interim title, things like that, where they don't get their fucking title shot. The rhyme or reason in ranking, I swear to God, it's based on your performance in that fight. So if Whitaker goes in there and smokes Cannonier, just demolishes him, title shot. If it's a close fight, then if there's another fight that is better, that person will get the title shot. I feel like that's how they do it all the time. I remember Machida had an opportunity. It was like Machida or Bader, and Bader had a sleeper fight, and Machida knocked somebody out, and then he ended up fucking getting the title shot. And even though Bader had more wins, strung up more wins, they're like, we'd rather give it to someone who's entertaining. This is like how it goes consistently.
I think that's almost a little bit where the middleweight class is at too. But the way Izzy's, being gold and talking, you might as well, the way he wants to do it, feed them all to him.
Oh, yeah, dude.
Line them up one after the other. Whoever's next in line, I think, give him the crack. The way.
Well, if he doesn't have a war, man, if he doesn't have a full battle with Costa and he wins relatively easily, absolutely. Give him even just another name that's in the middleweight division that's popular. Wouldn't even be mad if for some odd reason they were like, hey, you want to fight Nick Diaz? And I'd be like, fuck it. He deserves one of these cool fights. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well,
but it's a scenario where there's no clear-cut person. Because Whitaker's matched up to fight somebody, if they would have said, hey, you win against Till, you're getting a title shot, then I'm like, all right, obviously, Whitaker. But the fact that they have him matched up to fight somebody else, right now, there's no obvious person in my mind that's like, oh, they're getting that title shot. As soon as this is over, that's the next fight. Just like when Izzy beat Romero, everybody knew the next fight's Costa. There's no conversation to be had. It's Costa. It's being booked. And I think right now there's nobody like that.
I'm pretty confident, though, because that fight is at UFC 254, I think, isn't it? The Cannonier Whitaker. I'm pretty sure it's scheduled for 254, which is only 3 weeks away.
Yeah, so it lines up very well. So, like I said, if Whitaker comes out of that fight unscathed...
The winner of that...
Not even unscathed. Yeah. If he comes out of that fight with a dominant performance, they'll book that fight, because there's nobody else that makes sense. Till needs a win. I feel like Hermansson's good, but he hasn't done anything that's like, whoa. It's almost like I feel like Gastelum was not there. It was more that he wasn't prepared and ready for it, because it was a simple thing. It was like, dude, come on, a fucking immediate like heel hook, or I don't even remember what it was. It was something that was very early on where he shouldn't have got caught that easily, and I was just like, that's crazy. So I think that right now that division is so open. It's exciting, man. That's the cool thing. Like, as soon as Anderson Silva lost, that division opened right up. John Jones leaves light heavyweight, opens right up. You even look at DJ. As soon as he was gone, all of a sudden there's a lot of prospects. Every single division. I think if Justin Gaethje wins against Khabib, whole division opens up. You've got a lot of different scenarios like that. When GSP was running welterweight sucked. Really didn't. It just, he was so fucking dominant. There was no matchups to make. Once he's gone, all of a sudden it's like everyone's there. It's just, I think that's where it's cool to see now light heavyweight, middleweight, even welterweight. Like, you've got all the divisions that are opening up a lot more, where there's tons of exciting matchups to talk about, instead of like, well, he's got divisions cleared out, time for a super fight.
Yeah, I think once Stipe moves on, the heavyweight division will open up too. My only thing is I think Israel, really, let's look at it. If he gets past Costa...
Oh, no one's fucking with him. No one's fucking with him. No, yeah. I'm just saying,
who can you see him?
It's a scenario now where, like, because Silva's been gone long enough, he's there, but he's not a top dog. The division opened up. So now we got a new dude who's kind of he's got the throne. Just like Usman, there's not a lot of matchups stylistically that I see beating Usman. Just how he fights, I don't see it. But there's going to be someone down the road. But because it's not what it was with GSP, that division opened up a lot more. I mean, you had Lawler, you had Woodley. Could have been close with Kobe, man. That was a close fight until the finish. So you've seen it change hands more, so now it's more exciting. And I think that's where things get stale and stagnant. You look at women's division, Amanda Nunes, whoever she fights, I'm totally convinced she's going to win. Megan Anderson or Megan. Unless she puts a toe in her eye, I just don't see that happening.
Mate, I'm Australian and we support ours as much
I know,
as we
dude,
can.
and I'm sorry.
Christ. I still don't give her a
I'm
chance.
sorry, bro, because she's a good fighter in Invicta. And I hate to be that way, but like there's a lot of women who are very skilled, but they're not like elite. You get in the realm of Nunes. I mean, even Holly Holm brushes it. She's got great striking, but it's just like 1-2 head kick, 1-2 head kick, 1-2 head kick. I think it's getting there, you know. But Nunes is capping that division off, where it's like, fuck, what happens when you get to the top? So work your way to the top, and that's who you're fighting.
Now that's the thing. Nunes is just next level, especially in that division, and just in the women's in general, man. That's just a whole.
Yeah, you got Shevchenko. That's a whole nother You've got beast. Like a few divisions that are kind of locked up right now, but I still think middleweight has potential to be open because again, if let's say Costa wins, that opens up for a rematch. I think Costa versus Whitaker could be interesting. Well, he's got the power and he's a scrapper. We saw how he performed with Yoel. Like styles make fights, and I think Whitaker could counter him better. And I think there's a lot of fights to make.
That's a fight in the future. That I think is one that I'd look forward to Costa Whitaker. But personally, I think like I said, if Izzy gets past Costa, I can see him dominating for a while. But it's like you say, I think the opening up of division is good to see the rise in fighters come through. Like seeing the rise of Izzy to the title, and hopefully the reign, or not like that. But if he does have a reign and however long he holds on, it's like when Anderson come in too. Watching him against Lieben early on, and working. Not that it took him many fights. What was it? Only a couple of fights he was fighting for the title.
But see, he had
anyway.
A comparable thing. His background, they brought in his past to show his future. They're like, well, look at all he's done before. 1 or 2 wins, you get a title shot.
Yeah.
It's like, all right.
Well, speaking of which, I think another one that's going to be exciting to come through the ranks too is Hazmat Shmaev.
We're going to all figure his name out just like Khabib. It took a long time.
Yeah, we're going to have to.
It took a long time. Just like Zabit,
we're gonna have
fucking Shabazz. He's just Zabit to me. But it took a long time. These guys from Middle East, and I think he's in Sweden partly, but Russia, like these areas that are just rougher climates, rougher areas, bringing some fucking killers out, dude. He blew my mind, taking out what people call him Triple G or Triple 3, I guess, or G3 or whatever the fuck his name is. He's good. G3, he's good as a journeyman. You know what I'm saying? So this wasn't a test, in my opinion. It was a big record. Like I said, the numbers don't always show everything. Well, he's got a lot of finishes. He's tough. But man, I don't give a fuck who you are. The way he finished him that quickly, that devastatingly, that dude is definitely high in my book, man. Higher than I am at the moment.
Yeah, no, I thought that Merchant was actually, because of that reason. I don't think people realise Merchant's got this equal or second most amount of submissions in the UFC middleweight
I think
division.
Finishes.
So he's no...
Yeah, he's no geek off the streets, and I think with him, he's got the caliber to be a good fighter, but not elite. And you look at Shmaev, he is like, his skill set being so early on and not having that many fights is like, I see Dana's hype where he's like, I've never seen anything like it. Where like 60 days, he's fought 3 times in the most dominating fashion you get. I mean, not being touched like at all. And he talks the right amount of shit. He's like McGregor and fucking Khabib had a baby, little hybrid, the perfect combo. Talks just the right amount of shit that's almost cringy, but not too cringy. But then will smash you. He'll smash you. He's like, I smash. Tell him I smash.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, cool. This Khabib 2.0, because this dude has got the striking. He fluctuates between 170, 185. Like, exciting fighter, man. If you're a fight fan, no question, the dude's exciting, period. And knocking people out now? Yeah. Come on now.
That's the thing too. I watched the pre-fight, press conference, and he was, I'll smash you. When I take you down and choke you out, are you going to give me your black belt? How can you be black belt? I only purple belt, and they give you black belt.
I know. I was almost like, fuck this guy. I was kind of wanted him to get upset because I don't like that type of arrogance where you're putting somebody else down. Be confident about yourself, but don't put someone else's skill set down. Like belittle what they do. I don't like getting that off the benefit of somebody else. Make yourself look good. Be like, I'm the best. Any of these guys, doesn't matter who it is, I'm going to smash them. Don't let my belt confuse you. But instead, he went to beating this guy down, which he physically did later the next day. Very fucking solid fashion, man. And I think, dude, Damian Maia is not the matchup to make for him. I think that'd be a good test for grappling, cool, but I think Stephen Thompson. I think Wonder Boy would be the better matchup for him because one, it's this dude. They're already talking about him either against Kobe or against Leon fucking Edwards. Against like it blows my mind to hear the names. But Stephen Thompson, I wouldn't consider him a gatekeeper by any means. But he reminds me a lot of Holly Holm, where it's like if you can, hang with this motherfucker right here, you are of the elite. You're in the top area, and that doesn't mean that person's not going to be able to go higher still. It just shows you're of that caliber. Damian Maia has had some fights that are hit or miss. He's like 41 or 42. He's just a grappler. So all it'll take is this dude being an anti-grappler and beating him the fuck down. So I don't know, man.
Yeah, I just sometimes I don't think there's any need. He's only 26. He's still crazy. Young.
He looks old as shit.
Let's enjoy but let's just enjoy the ride. Let's not try and fast track him.
I agree. No, I agree, man. Sometimes that ruins careers. You see a lot of people where Dana pushes him too fast, and I think it seems like they're doing that right now. They're putting him in the right areas. I just think, in a sense of how deep welterweight's gotten, like it went from being like 4 or 5 big names to being pretty fucking stacked. There's fights that you could have him even against someone like Mike Perry, against fucking again Leon Edwards, Mickey Gall, even like just names that are there. I think that they can have him fight before a bigger name like Stephen Thompson. But if you're talking like Damian Maia, who's fought for a title, who's like more elite, like he fought Anderson Silva, it was a horrible fight back in Abu Dhabi forever ago. So I don't think that he would be. If you're gonna talk step up in competition, that's a name that people would say, oh, well, look, he beat him, now he's legit. I think Stephen Thompson's a better name that really shows if you're legit. Because Stephen's still kind of in the prime, he's still there. Damian Maia's on his way out. It's enough of a name that you could be like, oh, well, look, he beat him, now he's legit. It's like, don't jump to conclusion, bro, because this guy right here is on his way out. He's a legend, he's a vet, he's great. He beat Ben Askren, who I haven't had much faith in since Bellator. I mean, good grappler, but that's all sloppy, muddy grappler. So I don't know, man. I guess it's totally just my opinion. I just think that Stephen Thompson would be a better matchup.
Yeah, I'm just trying to quickly look at the UFC middleweight rankings now.
Well, like there's some names, and especially the thing is that's crazy. You got middleweight or welterweight.
Yeah, well, I think where do you see him fighting?
I think middleweight is better suited for him. I think that'd work better for him, honestly. But at the same time, you've got some dudes who are pretty fucking big up there. And you've got potentially Lionheart talking about moving back down, who's a big dude. You've got a few other fighters who just, I don't know, man. We'll see because he's still young. He could even fill out more, So I don't know. I'm excited.
I think he has done most of his fighting at welterweight. And I think, to me, going forwards, I'm all for him. I think, so that first fight he took on short notice at middleweight, Fight Island.
Yeah.
So I think that was just more the short notice is why he took that at 185. And then he fought, when was it, 10 days later?
Yeah.
And I think that was at 170, wasn't it?
That was at welterweight. And he said in his career that he fluctuates between the two, kind of where the fights come, he takes them. And it's like, and his body is like skinny fat, so he's able to do that, where he's like, kind of Nate Diaz style, where it's not like cutting a lot of weight. If anything, it's like strength and conditioning and getting your muscle up a little bit. Because I mean, it could go either way. I think wherever the main fight is for him. The cool thing about Damian Maia would be is it could be middleweight or welterweight because he's fought in both. Stephen Thompson just welterweight.
Well, I think that fight. See, here looking at the rankings, really, Damian Maia, based on the rankings to an extent, they are throwing him, into the deep end a little bit.
That's what I'm saying. It's like if you look at statistics on paper, if he beats Damian Maia, you could literally talk about him having one more fight and a title shot. But in the realistic world, Damian Maia's not there anymore. You know what I'm saying? He beat Ben Askren, who I felt like was washed up from the get-go, and he hasn't looked that great prior to that. Like, I don't know, man. I really don't think he's going to be the dude that can test him in that area. I think it'll just show like that Chimaev doesn't have the total finishing skills on an elite grappler, maybe, but I think he'll outstrike the shit out of him. I think he'll beat him down on the feet because he could just stop the takedowns and he could just work him.
Yeah. No, I say the same thing too. I don't see it being a good matchup for.
I think Thompson, again, I keep beating the drum of Thompson. I just think he's got good takedown defense, so he can stop those takedowns, and he's got the striking that would make it. He's hard to hit. So it would be it could be a really boring fight though. That's the only thing.
If you look at the rankings, there's nothing. Thompson's ranked at 6 and Mai's ranked at 7. There's nothing in between them. To me, I see there being some more exciting fights for him back. You got Vincent Luque at 10. Like, I don't think that'd be a bad fight.
Oh yeah, that is true. I didn't think about that. Luque's a fucking killer too. That would be a good one. That would be a good one for him to be able to have that on his record. I think that would definitely be solid. And somebody, I feel like you look at someone like him. He's got more of a aggression that's like would really test him. That push forward, that fucking like grit, where you got to be a fighter. The skill set's one thing, but you got to be a fighter with that dude, man. Like his fight with Bam Bam was crazy. Dude's just a killer, man. I think that would be a good one, man. No one's even said anything about that. We need to throw that one out there. That's official, Blunts and Bruises.
Yeah, well, even I could see, like I said, I just think Vincent Luque is 10. Like, I think that's probably somewhere he should, be shooting for, somewhere around that top 10. But even like Michael Chiesa at 8 wouldn't be a bad test for him.
Oh, they're both, and the fact that he's got the grappling too. Like, and again, those are names that would bring him up enough where then once he fights a Damian Maia or then once he fights a Stephen Thompson, that he could be number 4 or number 5. Like, yeah, he's right there because he's beat these recognizable people that are tough and durable, that have a good resume.
See, looking at the rankings now, the fight that I reckon I probably want to see most, which I think would give him the test that we need to see, would be Neil Magny.
Yeah, that would be a tough one. That'd be a tough one because Magny does a lot of what he does. Not so aggressive, but like just wrestle fucks you, good striking, has great cardio, and he's lanky and he's tough to deal with. Like, yeah, that'd be a good one, man. There's a lot of good. That's what I'm saying, dude. Like MMA, people are like, oh, I missed the pure days of it. And we should have a podcast talking about like the pure days of MMA, like pre-Machida era. People would say the 2-fight Machida era.
Well, it's funny. I was only just looking at the 254 card earlier on today because of Chandler as a backup.
Yeah, that's exciting too, man. We're gonna have to get deep on that one in the next podcast. I'm excited about that. The potential for that card.
Yeah, he was just mentioning though that he wouldn't mind filling in for anyone on that card. So I had a look and seen what lightweight. No, was it? Yeah, see, that was at lightweight though, I reckon, wasn't it? That probably doesn't. Yeah, no, that doesn't suit. No. I was just thinking that I think who on that card. I thought I seen. Oh, I say that's who was on that card. Yeah, that's the name I seen. Rafael Dos Anjos.
Oh yeah, no shit.
He's on that card to face Islam, which is
that's an interesting fight.
That's Khabib's. Khabib's
that's the dude who did it. Yeah, that's not the guy I was just saying. Yeah, they all look comparable, man.
Yeah. So, but that fight I would imagine is at lightweight, which means Dos Anjos is back at lightweight.
Yeah, he said he was moving back down to lightweight.
All right then, that makes sense then.
That would be a good test for Chandler, just to have a name in the UFC.
Seen him. Well, that's what I was just thinking. If anyone pulls out of that fight, I wouldn't be surprised to see Chandler fill in there.
Yeah, dude.
To be honest with you,
I'm excited. That whole card has got some interesting matchups, man. Stylistically, I think they did good with that. I'm super excited. We're gonna have to dive deep into that Gaethje. I've been a fan of Gaethje since PFL days or fucking World Series of Fighting. Like, super excited for that, man. And Khabib. Yeah, dude. But with that being said, we hit our hour-plus mark here, man. First episode, Blunts and Bruises, in the bag or the jar if you control your herb like I do. But yeah, so we'll be doing this weekly. Going to be doing this more often. Probably going to be even some updates and some random news stuff, reaction videos to some knockouts, fight companion, things like that. So definitely stay tuned for more. Make sure you subscribe whatever platform you're listening to or watching on. And of course, make sure you stay lifted and you don't get bruised the fuck up. For Rob and for Tyson, we'll see you next time.